Hello friends, welcome. I am so glad you're here with me today. I have this fun card to make. It is an Aperture card, but it's also a trifold card. So it says happy birthday from the whole herd. And then you open it on up and it says a whole lot of happy wishes. So I thought this would be a great idea if you're needing a birthday card for the workplace where you're going to have a lot of different people signing it. It's from a lot of different people, but it also has plenty of room for lots of people to sign. And I thought this was a fun card. Another thing is it's good for both men and women. So in the workplace, if you had a gentleman that was having a birthday, this could be a good card as well as for a female. So there's lots of steps to this card. So we definitely want to hop right in and get started. So the products that I'm going to be using are the Barnyard Animal Stamp. That's kind of one of the main players. And then I am going to use the Flight of the Butterfly stencil, specifically this grass area right here. To do my inside sentiment, I'm using a whole lot of happy, or Happy Everything. That's what it's called, Happy Everything, and it's a great one for birthdays. Our kind of main die is the Keyhole dies that came out around Halloween time. I haven't had a chance to use these yet, and I really wanted to go for as if you were inside the barn or inside the house, kind of peeking out into the yard. So that was kind of what I was going for, and the Keyhole was perfect. I did go to the Butt Nugget stamps just to get this nice fence row up here. Now, the Barnyard Animals do have no fuss masks that you can purchase, and I did not realize that, so I forgot to order them. I didn't realize I could order them, so I used some of the no fuss masking sheets to make my own masks. But if I had realized that there were the no fuss masks available, I certainly would have ordered those. So definitely, if you want to make this card, make sure you grab those no fuss masks. Makes it so much easier. Cuts a whole step out. Alright, so we're going to be doing a lot of different things today. We're going to start with some die cutting. Out of gray paper, I have gone ahead and used 2 of the dies to make myself a keyhole frame. And I used the third one in and the largest one. Now to make our trifold card, I'm going to use 2 card blanks. And so eventually I'm going to glue the 2 backs together, and that's going to give us our trifold. Okay, so this will be where I do my stamping, and this is going to be my cover. So I have cut myself a piece of craft cardstock that has a wood grain in it. Now, you could get this wood grain look in lots of different ways. You could stamp yourself a wood grain look, you can emboss a wood grain look, or if you want to, like I did, you can purchase paper that already has the wood grain in it. So I am going to position, actually I'm going to go ahead and glue it on. Put my glasses on. Just going to go ahead and I'm just going to glue around the outer edges here and put that right on the cover of my card. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and tape my keyhole just right here in the center. Going to tape that down. Now I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine, just this half. I don't want to close it because that would cut through my back. So I'm just going to cut through that front portion. There we go. And the next thing we're going to do is some quick ink blending. So I'm going to use some Distress Oxides. And we're going to give just a little bit of texture to our wood grain paper. Peel that off carefully. Don't want to tear my wood grain paper. Go ahead and punch out my die. There we go. And now I'm going to go ahead and close my card up. And you know what? I'm going to take a piece of scratch paper, and this is just a scratch paper, and I'm going to put it right in here just to make sure I don't accidentally get any on my inside. But I'm just going to come and right around the edges, give a little bit of shadow to this paper. And this is a step I think it's important not to skip. It really, you know, just adds to the finished product, in my opinion. I really like the ink on there. It brings out that wood grain. Now I'm going to be careful going around the bottom here so that I don't get that inside. All right, that ought to do it. All right, to finish off my card front, I've cut myself some pieces here. And we're going to go ahead and glue on our frame. Wah! Dropped it. There we go. I have to wipe that off. There we go. All right, so you could stop right here, but I thought to kind of give my card front that kind of barn look, I made myself some 1/8 inch thick strips in the same gray color so that it kind of looked like maybe metal strips or something on my barn. And I'm just going to glue those right along the sides and cut those off. Now I still have a little bit of glue right here, and I'm going to put a piece right here. And same thing, go ahead and cut that off. Now I'm going to lay this one right here beside, so that can kind of tell me where I need to place this one, at least generally. So it's somewhat straight. It doesn't have to be exact, but there we go. And this is just an extra step that you can do to kind of just add more character there to the front of your card. And I thought that was fun. If you're there with me in the chat, do say hello. And go ahead and all right. So now we have, very quickly, the front of our card all done, ready to go. Whoops, what did I do? Oh, there it is. I can misplace things so quickly on my desk. There we go. Hello. Hey, Katrina. How are you today? Yes, inking is a must. And I personally love the oxides, especially when I'm on video, just because it's just a faster and you get good results real quick. So, like I said, I'm going to be gluing this one right onto here. And then this piece will fold in. So right here is where I want my animals to be. So I'm going to put that all together and close this up. And I'm just going to quickly take a little piece of tape. And you know what? I need to be doing this inside my stamp. So let me just get my stamping platform here. And I'm going to put this down about right in there. Now I'm going to grab my stamps. Like I said, today's card has a lot of different parts to it. We're going to be doing lots of different things. And one of them is placing our animals where we want them in our scene. So lining it up like this on your stamping platform will help you decide where you want it. So I kind of want my animals peeking out where you can see just maybe like one eye. Excuse me, I'm still recovering from this head cold that I've had. I'm over it, but boy, the cough is just hanging on. So I'm kind of setting up my handles here so that you can just see a peek of each one. All right. So about like that. And how I've set them up is where each one you can pretty much see just one eye. And then I'm also going to have, I went ahead and I stamped my greeting, Happy Birthday from the, which is in your stamp set. And I'm going to place that about where I'm going to have it. And then this little bird is going to be standing right on top of that happy birthday. Okay. All right. So this is how I want it set up. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up all of those images. Then I'll remove this part. It's the front of our card. Make sure that's all in the corner. Now for this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tape my card base down because this is an open card and that'll kind of bubble up if we don't tape it down. But just barely on the edges so it doesn't get on the way of my stamping. Move this bit out of the way. And I'm going to stamp this in some Copic friendly ink. Yeah, excuse me. I've had about 3 cough drops in the 5 minutes before I went live, hoping that the cough would be controlled. If it was possible to like break a rib coughing, I think I would have done so this week. So, all right, we're just gonna get that all stamped. All right, that looks pretty good for now. So by layering it up inside your stamping platform, that gives you a way to kind of position all of your stamps within your Aperture so you know exactly how they're going to look. Take a tablespoon of honey. That's a great idea. My cough drops do have honey in them, but it actually sounds very good to have some honey. That would have been a good idea before I went live. I didn't think of that. Sometimes my husband is watching me while I'm live. He's downstairs. He usually fixes lunch while I'm live. So I'll have to, if he's watching, get out the honey. That's a great idea. Okay. So now we have our our animals in place. The next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and add my having trouble talking again today. Here it is. Here it is. My masks. And like I said, I've already used these masks because I had to cut them myself. I sure wish that I had ordered the No Fuss masks because I love those things. I just didn't realize. I found it out too late. So we'll go ahead and place our masks on. Oops, his little tail didn't go in the right spot. There we go. I've got him too high. Okay, and our last, as my son said when he was a little boy, the moo cow. We'll get that in place. Had a son that when he was little, he was just obsessed with cows. It was the funniest thing. There we go. Put that tail down. Okay, so now that we have our masks in place, we're going to go back to our stamping platform, and this time I'm going to turn it the other direction. Again, I'm going to tape down that corner. And this is when we're going to add our fence row. So I'm going to add my fence so that that pig is standing right up by the fence, about right here. Okay. Add another piece of tape over there. And again, I'm just going to stamp this in some Copic friendly ink. Yes, I don't love fussy cutting the masks. I don't mind fussy cutting like an image once I cut it out, because I always put a little white edge to it. But when you fussy cut your mask, you've got to cut just right on the line, and that, you know, it's just a little more tedious when you have to be so exact. So I definitely prefer having the no fuss masks. I think those are a genius invention. And I would want no fuss masks for all of them. So, all right, so now that we have that ready, and real quickly, I have a sticky mat down here and I just want to wipe that off. There we go. Okay, I think I'm done with my platform for a little bit, so I'll put that away. And now we need our stenciling mat back. I'm just going to clean that off real quick from the brown. I just sprayed a little bit of rubbing alcohol on there and wiped it with a microfiber towel. And now I'm just going to place that, maybe right here. I'm debating whether I want to tape it down. I think that I will. Although tape doesn't really stick very well on this mat, so I won't bother. I'll just hold it down. And now we're going to add our grass and our sky. So to do that, I'm going to use this Flight of the Butterfly stencil. And I'm just going to line it up, and I'm going to start with my lightest shade of green, which is the Twisted Citron. And I'm starting with my lightest because I don't want to have to clean my stencil in between. So that just makes it easier. Hello, Meredith. I'm glad you're here with me today. Yeah, you know, Diane asked me if I prefer tape instead of magnets. I kind of do. I do have a board with the magnets and all, and I do use it sometimes, but I tend to, the tape I already have over here because I die cut so much, so it just seems easier. But it's really both work just fine, but I guess it's just what you're in the habit of grabbing for. So my next green is going to be the mowed lawn. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm just going to move my stencil up. I don't want it to be like totally even, but I'm going to move my stencil up, and I'm just going to add that, blending it right down into the top of my grass that I did prior. Letting it be darker kind of towards the top and letting it get lighter as it blends into that other color. So about like that. Now for my darkest color, I'm going to bring this stencil all the way up so that it's at that grass line at the top. I'm going to use this same brush. And now I'm going to add this darkest color right in here. Bring it on down. Okay, now one thing that I want is just little pieces of grass kind of randomly around my scene. So I'm going to get a heavy amount on my brush, and I'm just going to lay it down, lay my stencil down, and just like make a little spot of grass. Like that. I'm going to have one over here. Okay. All right, so you can see how I kind of added some little patches of grass to kind of just give it a more field-like. And these places here where the white's showing, I'll show you how I'm going to fix that in just a moment. All right. set that over here. I'm just going to quickly clean this up before we switch to the blue. Okay. And now for my sky. So I have some tumbled glass that I'm going to do my sky. And just kind of start along the top and bring that in. Now I'm not going to worry about this getting onto my fence. So I'm going to let my blue just kind of go on my fence. That's okay. All right. Now just to add a little bit of dimension in my sky, I have my brush that I use for my darker blues. And I didn't add any ink to it, but just what's on the brush, I'm going to do some swipes around there just to add some different color in there. And that gives me just enough to kind of give that variation. And I like the way that looks. All right. Excuse me again. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. We're going to remove our masks. And hopefully I did a pretty good job in getting it right on the line. But I'm going to show you what I do to kind of fix that if I have some white spots. And inevitably, it always seems like I have a few, no matter how perfect I try to put down my masks. All right, so now we're going to do some Copic coloring. And I have identified two colors that work with my Copic. So the YG63 goes really well, I think, with the Rustic Wilderness. So I am going to, up here where my fence line hits the grass, I am basically going to go along and flick down into my grass all the way along there. And what's nice about this is when it's all done, you can't tell the marker from the ink. Right, and then also right here, any white spots around my animals where my mask may have gone over, I'm just going to very carefully color that in. With my marker. Just very carefully. All right, let's see, looks like on the lamb I did pretty good. But if you see any white spots, just touch them up with the marker. All right. Now, the same with the animals in the sky. I'm going to use the B with 3 zeros. And we can add in. It looks like that's pretty good. Sometimes down here in the fence, I add a little bit. Just to add some shading down there around the fence. But looks pretty good. I got the pig on there really well. Oh, I see. Over here by his tail. Missed a little bit. All right, so now that we have our inking done, let's go ahead and quickly do some Copic coloring. I'm going to use E47, and I'm not going to do a lot of fancy coloring today. Not that I ever color fancy, but I'm just going to color my images up here so that we can complete our card. Normally though, when I do color, I'm a rather slow colorer, so I like to take my time with it. I love coloring though. It's something I do often. But we're not going to get super fancy with these guys. Mostly I'm just going to use some 2-color blends, and but you can see I'm coloring right over that blue oxide ink, no problem. All right. Oh, Merritt, this is your first time catching me live. Well, I'm so glad. Welcome. We are here every Thursday at noon, and I would love it if you can join more often. That would be great. So for my little pig, I'm using 2 pinks, the RV14 and the RV13. So like I said, we're just going to do some 2-color blending here. Just anywhere where I think there would be shadow, I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And color his little spots on his tush. And now I'm going to just blend that out with the 13. I did just color his eyeballs. Oops. And then for his nose, I'm just going to flick in from the edges. Alright. Did I get him all the way? Okay. Alright, so there's my little pig. For my little sheep, I'm using the C2 and the C1. And I am just going to trace all of his little fur there. Go ahead and color his ears and his tail. And then with the C1, I'm going to do his face just by flicking from the edges towards the center. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my C3 and do his legs. And come back and do a little more on his ears and tail. Maybe some of the places where there's shadow. Alright, so he's pretty much done. Now for my cow. So for the cow, I'm going to use the E21. Whoops, wrong end. And just do his nose. I'm doing his nose the same way I did the others. So if you're not a Copic colorer, but you're wondering why I'm flicking from the edges, where you set your marker down always gets a little more ink. And then when you flick it towards the middle, that middle section is going to be lighter. And then the 2 edges where you've set your pen down, that's going to be just a tad darker. And since I'm just doing simple coloring and I don't want to have to, you know, go back over it with multiple colors, that's just a quick way to get some shading without doing anything fancy. So for his hooves, I'm going to use the T9 and the T7. And just wherever I think there's shading, I'm doing it with the darker color. Oops, missed a bit. And then just coming back in with the lighter. For the rest of my cow, I'm going to use the T1. And where's that other T color? Look at it. Yep. Let me grab. I'm going to do 3 and 4. Not sure I'll use the 3 or not. Maybe for his ears. While I had the E21, I was supposed to do his little horns, and I forgot. So I'll go back and do his horns. Okay, so with the T4, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to color his ears, the little hair up here, and all of his spots and his tail. Okay. And now with the T1, I'm going to do that same flicking action on his face. And on his tail and body, I'm going to do just a little bit of flicking to just put some color, especially wherever it should have some shading. But leaving most of him white in his body. Alright, right, now I'm going to go ahead and take one of these T markers and go ahead and color the hooves on my pig and my sheep. I'm going to use R11 to add some nice rosy cheeks here on my animals. I don't know if the pig will even show up, and I'm going to fill in the mouth of my little chickadee. For my chickadee, I'm using Y19 and Y15. I don't usually color on videos just because I hate for y'all to watch, but there was just no other way to do this one and still share with you, you know, the different steps of making it. So I realize there's a lot of coloring today. But hang with me, we are almost to the finish line here. And color in my bird's beak. And the last thing is I'm going to take this R11 and just fill in the ears of my little animals. Those are done. And I forgot my cowbell. I wanted to bring in some blue to go with my title, so I'm going to give him a little blue collar. And we'll use the same two yellows to do my cowbell down here. All right, we're done. Hopefully that was not too awful hard watching the coloring process, but hopefully some of you enjoy that. I have the happy birthday from the, and then I have also stamped the whole herd, and I stamped those in this pretty blue color from Catherine Pooler's called Suede Shoes, and that was just to kind of tie in and add some bright colors to my design. Now this little bird, I have also stamped it a second time and colored it just like on the inside. So we have our two parts now, and we need to decide how we're going to glue them. So this one has some ink on it, so I'm going to glue it on the inside here. So I'm going to stamp my greeting right here on this one before we finish our card. So I actually have another stamping platform down here, and I have it already, well, hopefully, I already have my stamps placed in here how I want them to read. So I'm just going to place this inside. Okay. Oops. Use the magnets here. Hopefully. Oops, moved it. Okay, that ought to work for us. And I'm just going to go ahead and use that same blue. Oops. You don't mind, you like watching the coloring techniques? Well, I hope so. Like I said, that was a very simple coloring, but if you are just starting out with the whole coloring, it can hopefully be helpful to some of you. All right. Whoops, I just stuck my finger in my ink. I have a little wet wipe over here. I'm going to wipe it off real quick before I make a mess on my card. There we go. That closed up before I do it again. Okay. All right. I'll set that aside to clean up later. And we're ready to finish constructing. Now you may have noticed that my Copic coloring has gone through over here. So I have another sheet that I am going to cut down and cover that up. And I thought about doing it with some colored paper, but in the end I decided to just go with the white. We'll do that here in just a second. So I'm just lining that up. And before that completely hardens, just want to close it all up and make sure that it's all good. All right, so we have that part. Now for my sentiment, I'm going to take the whole herd and I'm going to place it right inside, just like this. So I want it like that little bird is standing on it. Oops. I just put new glue in here, and boy, is it coming out fast. There we go. Got the little bird standing there. Down a second. All right. There we go. Now I'm going to take this one, and when you do this, you want to make sure, add just a little more right here on this side. You want to make sure that this one is more narrow than this one. So when I stamped this, I made sure it was wider. Even though the writing is smaller, I wanted my overall piece to be wider so that it can cover that up. So I'm just going to add my glue on my two ends and place it right over the top. And now for my little bird, I want to place him so that he is just right on top of the bird that's on the inside. So you only want to add glue to the side that is on the front and not on the aperture part. So that makes sense. There you go. All right, so there he is. So I have this one sheet of this solid white paper that I'm going to cut down on either side, just maybe 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to add that right inside here to cover up where our Copic has come through. So that way, if people sign over on this side, you're not bothered by the Copic coming through. All right, so we're all done. There were a lot of parts to this card, but I love how it turned out. Happy birthday from the whole herd. There's a whole lot of happy wishes, and I thought it might be fun if everybody signs it. And within your stamp set, I can get my fingers on it. There's moo and ba and oink and chirp. And I thought it would be fun to kind of stamp some of these things around in different colors and maybe add a balloon or two from our sentiment set or some birthday candles. This set has lots of balloons, and that would just make it fun and festive on the inside. So I hope you like this card design. If you're ever making a card for someone at work where you're in a situation where you're having lots of people sign it and it's from multiple people, this might be a fun idea. So, all right, thank you so much for joining me today. All the products that I've used today are listed below the video if you're interested in any of those. And I look forward to crafting with you again next Thursday. Y'all have a happy Valentine's Day coming up, and I hope that that you just have a romantic day. So y'all have a great one, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.